Your reasons for listening to the show, well, those are your own. But just keep in mind that the views, information, or opinions expressed on the Tuddle Daily Podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of our sponsors. Yeah, it's called free speech, people. Nobody's forcing you to listen.
Get ready for your daily dose of Tuddle.
The all-time greatest intern/producer we've ever had, of course, Tuddle. Tuddle in Florida.
From the Hobo Fish Camp, it's the Tuddle Daily Podcast.
No wonder nobody likes you, Tuddle. Everything's a goddamn debate.
Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Tuddle Daily Podcast. Hope you guys are enjoying your day so far. Make sure you go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Tuddle. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell button, because when you hit that bell button, you're going to get alerted to any time I go live or I upload any new content. I would like to hear from you guys. I love feedback. I want to have some interaction, some engagement with you. I'm now doing an 11 a.m. show. I've done it every single day this week. Last 2 days, Charlie Alamo and Sirach have joined me. And I would love for you, I would love to hear from you and see what you're thinking. I know that I've been kind of like, I haven't even got the audio podcast uploaded. And I have a meeting with my producer, Vulture, to kind of get on a little bit of a better schedule. And I do apologize. I've been stretched really, really thin. And I'm going to get into that on today's topic, but I would love to hear back from you. There's a couple of ways you can do that. You can email me, tuddle@gmail.com. That's Tuddle with 2 Ds, TUDDLE @gmail.com. Or leave me a voicemail, 407-270-3044. Once again, that is 407-270-3044. And I want you guys to be real with me. I want you to give me the God-honest truth. Are you liking the extra content that I'm doing? Like I said, I know that it's stretching me thin. I have been doing a lot of extra work behind the scenes that doesn't involve the podcast. You know, I've been talking about this. I know that it's been a while since my dad passed away. But, you know, we're getting ready on October 9th for the memorial party of his. And he did not want a funeral. He didn't want a service. He just wanted a gathering of people, his friends, family, co-workers, people that he hired, to be able to just hang out, have a good time, tell stories, and that's what he wanted. And I've been getting ready for that because we got family members coming over, and my mom wants me to get the yard looking nice, so I've cleaned up, I've been weed eating, I've been mowing, I've been doing all of that stuff on top of everything else. And I don't want you guys to think that I'm complaining. I'm not. Like, I enjoy what I'm doing, and I just need to recalibrate everything and just be able to do that. You know, like I'm hearing, I got people busting my balls about too many ads. You know, like I've actually, you know, tried to do my best to, you know, service the supporters of this show. And now, since I gotten monetized, I'm able to do ads at the beginning of my show and stuff, okay? So let me break this down a little bit for you. And I don't understand why this person came at me this way. And you know what? At first, I wrote back. Here, let me first read what he wrote on my YouTube channel. It's so cringy how many ads you put up. Seriously, man. Makes you seem desperate. I am a mad fan, but won't listen with all these ads. Sorry, but you lost a follower. And you know what I did? Trying to make everybody happy. I try to make excuses for, you know, I'm very apologetic. And you got to understand, I've talked about this, and I'm not ready at the moment to go into description or details of what happened to me, but I am a survivor of childhood trauma. And one of the things that happens, that people that have gone through that, they're very apologetic. They try to be people pleasers. So this is what I wrote back. I said, okay, what would make you happy? One, at the beginning, because I'm trying to make a living. I don't want to lose you as a listener. And then I wrote back one last thing. You do understand this is how I make money. Would you work for free? I'm just asking. And the more and more I thought about it, like seriously, I have been busting my ass to be able to get monetized, to be able to have some revenue coming in. Most of the money that I make is off of my live streams, people super chatting and tipping me for the content that I'm doing. But I'll give you a little bit of example. I am not breaking the bank with the ads that are running at the beginning of my podcast that are available on YouTube or the live streams. Making like $1.50, maybe $2 on a really, really good one, maybe $5. And if you guys are true supporters of mine, you guys know that I do get paid more when you watch the whole ad instead of hitting the skip button. And I'm not telling or asking you guys to do anything. I'm letting you know. But I think it's absolute complete bullshit that this guy most likely is a troll. By the way, his name's BBQ Sandwich. Great name there, buddy. You know, I gotta start standing up for myself a little bit more, because like I just don't understand it. Like I'm giving you guys a product, and I'm not saying it's all of you guys or anything like that. I don't want you to think that I'm ungrateful or I'm mad at everybody. But I just think that it was a little bit of an asshole thing to write. That you can't just watch an ad, or you're wanting to complain because there are too many ads. Have we just become too coddled or just too spoiled now in the age of everything on demand? You know, when I grew up, you had to watch TV shows and you just had to sit through the commercials. You really didn't have any choice. Do you understand? I don't have a job right now. I'm trying to build something special. I'm trying to create something where I don't have to go back to radio, where I don't have to deal with the assholes in the business that are just rude and disrespectful. I want to be able to be my own boss. I want to be able to like mirror or even become or even greater than something like Tom and Dan are doing. You know, they have a whole entire studio. I do this on my iPhone. I do all the editing. I pull all the prep, the audio that you've been hearing the last couple of days with Charlie Alamo playing it on his end. I pull all that off my phone. I do everything. You know, it makes me feel like a real loser today when I had to do the show out of my truck. So I'm trying to do the best that I can and be able to make enough money to be able to finally finish this studio. Like I've got everything cleaned out. I've already started to, insulate everything, soundproof it. I want to have a complete green screen all in the studio where I can do stuff, have logos and everything behind me. So yeah, buddy, I got to run ads. Even though I'm not making a lot of money off of it besides the super chats that you guys give me during my live streams. But I'm hustling right now. And for you to bitch and complain about too many advertisements, You know what I tell you? It would suck to lose you as a listener. BBQ sandwich. I don't even understand what the hell that name is. Do you own a barbecue like sandwich place? But at this point right now, I'm gonna say it. Fuck you. That's what I'm saying. Fuck you. And if you see me out in person, I will say it right to your face. Because I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you do for a living. But, for you to complain about the way that I'm making money, if you were a true supporter of the content that I'm putting out, you would not complain about watching some commercials. If you're tired, I'll tell you this right now. I'm going to tell you right now. If you hate the commercials, then get the YouTube Pro so you do not have to watch the commercials, or you that much of a cheap-ass mother effer that you can't afford it. So if I lose you as a listener, I wish you the best, but once again, fuck you. So I mentioned earlier how I've been stretched kind of thin, getting ready for my dad's memorial party. I've been talking lately about, dealing with a bout of insomnia as of late. And when I grew up, I was a very, very quiet kid. I don't want you to think like I was at the bottom that everybody picked on, or I was the nerd, or the one that I did get bullied. I'll tell you straight up, I did get bullied. And that's one of the things I'm going to talk about, because during my dad's memorial party, I'm going to get up and speak. And the reason that I really want to get up there and speak is because my good friend Daniel Dennis, I was still working with him at Real Radio 104.1. And one of the main reasons why I got into radio, and this is before I even met or interned on the Ron and Fez show. My dad, he wasn't a misogynistic type person, but he thought it was best because he would rather work longer, harder hours to be able to make as much money as he could. So my mom could stay home with me and make sure that I wasn't getting into trouble. I was doing my studies and all that good stuff. But when I got to an age where I could drive to school, my mom went back to work. She ended up working at Winn-Dixie here in DeLand as a baker. And Daniel's dad used to come in and he would get like some donuts, because I think he worked at the courthouse, one of the courthouses in Volusia County. And he would get a dozen donuts and would probably come back later in the day to get some fried chicken and stuff like that. But that is how, because Daniel's dad actually brought my mom a Real Radio 104.1 hat. And this is before I even worked for him. This is before I worked with Ron and Fez. And Daniel's dad brought that in because his dad said, yeah, my son works on the radio, da-da-da-da. My mom had mentioned how I was interested about maybe getting an internship. And Daniel's dad brought a hat and a shirt that my mom was to be able to give to me. And Daniel's dad passed away, and I went to the service. And at the time, you're never, ever prepared, or you don't think you think you always have more time, but you don't appreciate it. You're never going to be prepared when one of your parents passes away. And I went to the service, and Daniel gave one of the most heartwarming speeches or talks or eulogizing his father And it was just something that I just respected so much. I was like, how can a guy that just lost his dad, because see, in the South, dads are very, very important. They are. Because the South is a little bit tougher and rougher than any other place in the United States. So dads have that special connection. But my dad, back to what I'm saying is I was kind of a mama's boy because I did spend a lot of time with my mom. I didn't have close neighbors around to be able to go and play with their kids and stuff. If I wanted to go see my friends, Howard or Derek, I had to, hike it on a bike, probably 10, 15 miles just to be able to go and see them. But when my dad was around, I learned some of the best lessons in my life. And I'm going to have to get up. Well, I don't have to. I think I owe it to my dad to be able to get up and speak in front of the crowd. And the crowd, and what I mean by crowd, it's going to be friends, family, and a bunch of the iron workers that my dad hired. Because the one thing that I'm going to talk about, which is a common theme about my dad, is that he was a leader. He wasn't like a dictator, but he was a fair leader. And he loved to be able to teach people. And I'll give you an example. My dad did not even graduate out of high school. But you know what my dad did? He went out and learned a trade as a welder. He started his own business, had that for probably 10 years. He was gone a lot, out of town, building and erecting McDonald's, Publix's, a grocery store, just anything. My dad, like I said, my dad didn't even graduate out of high school. But guess what? You could show him a blueprint, not even knowing anything about the job, and he would know more than any of the other assholes that wasted their money going to college or university to learn, architecture and stuff like that. My dad was an absolute savant when it came to that. And what I meant by being a leader, he gave so many people opportunities. He ended up hiring quite a few people that my dad respected hard work. He was a little rough around the edges, but there were so many guys, because there are going to be a lot of iron workers that are going to be there for my dad's memorial party. And I've told this story before. I don't know exactly what country they're from, but there were three brothers that ended up showing up and immigrating to this country. And they ended up getting on one of the crews, and it was completely legal immigration. And they started out just as grunts, greenhorns. They worked their way up. My dad saw how hard they were working. Ended up making them foremen, gave them their own trucks. They were running their own crews, making really, really good money. And after my dad retired from the Florida Atlantic, where he was working at, the three brothers ended up starting their own business, putting up buildings, being welders, steel erectors. And you know what they did? They showed up. They wanted to visit my dad. And they all wanted to give my dad money to tell my dad thank you for giving them a shot And it was a good amount of money. You know what my dad did? My dad told them to keep it. My dad told them, you earned it. You don't have to pay me. I didn't give you that opportunity. I didn't make you a leader. I didn't make you a foreman because of I expected something back. You earned everything you got. And my dad gave them all the money back. And you know what he said? Take that money and use it to buy equipment. Use it for your business. Use it to pay your employees. And there's not a lot of people that would do stuff like that. My dad gave, it was a good amount of money, and my dad gave it back to them because my dad respected hard work. Another example of my dad being a leader. I've talked about this. My dad has said this. There are two things that we had the most fun doing together. One was watching Florida Gators football. And number two, well, I mean, they're both even. You know what? I'll even put the baseball ahead of it. My dad ended up coaching my Little League team, my Senior League team. And I know if I'm repeating myself, I do apologize. I just think I needed to go over a lot of this stuff because my main concern is getting up and speaking in front of a bunch of roughneck ironworkers and me breaking down or crying. And I know that I shouldn't be embarrassed of it. I really, really shouldn't, but I want to be strong because I know that's what my dad would want me to be. Because, right after he passed away, I ended up, I really didn't cry. I didn't show any emotions. I was almost to the point concerned that people thought maybe I was a psychopath or something like that. But the reason I wasn't getting upset, I wasn't crying because I didn't want to do it in front of my mom. And if I was breaking down, I went outside. I went outside and had a cry by myself, but I did not want to do it in front of my mom. I really, really didn't. But back to what I was saying is, the baseball, my dad coached a lot of my teams until I started playing high school ball. But he came out to every game, even though he was working like 8-10-hour days, running a crew or having to deal with contractors and stuff like that. He would show up. But when he coached my team, I one of the best memories of my life. Here in Volusia County, we were there were two cities in the same league. You had DeLeon Springs and you had Pearson, which is in northwest Volusia County. It's actually the same city that I went to high school in. And DeLeon Springs, we didn't have as many people to pull from. You gotta realize DeLeon Springs was a city that didn't even have a goddamn caution light. So we had no lights at all. And we had street lights and stuff like that. But Pearson had been beating DeLeon Springs' ass for like the past 2 decades. No team from DeLeon Springs had ever beat Pearson in league. And we did it. And I remember it was one of the most joyous occasions. My dad was a great leader even in that case. Because there were a lot of kids on our team in DeLeon Springs that their parents just didn't give a fuck. I don't know. You know what? I'll take that back. I don't know if they didn't give a fuck, but they didn't have the money because they were all working jobs and they couldn't take their kids to the games. You know what my dad did? He picked up every single one of those kids to be able to take them to the game. The ones that could not get there, my dad picked them up. He would drive them around. He would help them out. He would go out of his way to help them not only with baseball, but just in life in general. And, like I had discussed, my dad was out working quite a few times. My mom never did the punishments. And it's not like I got into a lot of trouble. I maybe got 3 or 4 spankings in my whole entire childhood. And, I respected my dad. I did. He taught me, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Until to this day, I do the same thing. Even though he's not alive, I still do it because I'm always afraid that I'm going to get smacked in the back of the goddamn head for not saying that. But there were a couple of times. I remember, the last, punishment I got, where I got the belt. I remember maybe a couple of months before that, I told my dad that I didn't think, because I thought I was a man. Not really. My dad was a real man. And I told him, I said, I don't think the next time you spank me, that I'm going to cry. Well, we ended up burning a bunch of debris and stuff. We had a little burn pit. And I thought it would be a great idea to throw an aerosol can inside the fire. And it ended up going off like a shotgun blast. And my mom was there. She got absolutely pissed at me. And one of the worst things is the wait. The wait. Go to your room. Do not go out. Do not do anything. Just sit there. Think about what you did. Because when your dad gets home, he's going to take care of it. Well, as soon as I got in that room, I had to wait like an hour or two before my dad got home. Because he worked late. And when he came home, I was like, all right. I kind of called this bluff. The last thing you want to do to a man's man is call him out. Tell him that he can't do something. Because I know for a fact he remembered that I told him, I don't think you can make me cry the next time you spank me. And you know what I did? I was like, oh, he is going to bring the wood this time. And I ended up stuffing my pants with a bunch of underwear, socks, and stuff like that. I didn't go overboard so he could see it. And he hit me the first couple of times, and like an idiot, I didn't sell it. I didn't cry. I didn't do anything. And even though my dad didn't even graduate high school, guess what? He was smart enough to know exactly what I did. He said, what do you got in your pants, boy? Made me pull out all that stuff. And I don't want you to think that my dad was abusive. I really do, in my opinion, think that he hated doing it. And I know a lot of people don't agree on spankings or whatever like that. It's just something that's in the South. Maybe it's all over the place. I don't want you to think that my dad abused me over the top, because he didn't. It was maybe a couple of good whacks, and then he would sit down and he would talk to me about what I did wrong and what he expected. And that was the last time that I ever got punished by him. And you know what? Even at the time that it hurt so much, I now know it was him trying to be a leader, him trying to teach me, because he knows that the world is not fair. The world does not owe you anything at all. And I think that's what he was trying to tell me. And that was the last time. And that's just one of the things that always sticks out into my mind about that time. Us, when we're growing up, we think that our parents are just being hard on us. And that's not the case. They're trying to prepare us. Because they know that the world can be very, very cruel. And they're trying to give us the tools to be able to survive. And that's what I mean by being a leader. And I know that this is kind of a short podcast today. I'm going to do a better job because I'm just getting used to this new schedule. But I just kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit. Hell, I even started crying just a few minutes ago. So I don't even know how I'm going to be when I'm doing it in front of a lot of people. I know that people are going to be understanding. I'll leave you on this. Speaking of ironworkers, because a lot of them are going to be there. There was this iron worker that I was actually worked on his crew on a job in Orange City in Volusia County. His name was Mark. And I think he ended up moving up to Tennessee. He hadn't seen my dad in a while. He ended up coming to the trailer a couple of months ago, knocking on the door. Mr. Wayne, coming by to see my buddy. Coming by to see my mentor. And I had to go out and tell him that my dad had passed away. And that was the first time that I ever saw an ironworker cry. You know what? I'll scratch that, because my dad was an ironworker. But the first time that I saw him cry was when my Uncle Rick, my dad's brother, passed away. That was the very first time I ever saw my dad cry. And I because this is kind of like a dual memorial service, because we never did one for my Uncle Rick. My Uncle Rick ended up dying of cancer 8 months before my dad passed away. And he was a Vietnam vet. You know, they used a lot of that Agent Orange stuff. And that was the first time that I ever saw my dad, like, cry. And it was a little weird. But I'm not going to be ashamed if I do end up crying while speaking in front of this group of people. And now, after, pitting it out there and talking about it on this podcast, that I wanted to do it as kind of like a test run, a run through. And I got a lot of stuff written down, and I'm not going to read off of a paper. I'm just going to get up and talk and be myself and try to make my dad proud. Listen, guys, I really do apologize. I know this is not the most fun or funny podcast. I like to keep it light, but I also just want to keep it real. And I think one of the things I like about talk radio is that you get an inside look. You get to know people. And I apologize. I really, really do apologize for the, down-themed show today. But I consider you guys all friends. I all consider you guys a part of my family, because you guys go out and tell people about the show and help spread the word. And I am truly sorry about the show being kind of depressing today. But I promise I'm gonna bounce back. Once this memorial thing is done, it's gonna be a new chapter. I'll be able. I'm not saying move on. I'm always going to think about him. I'm always going to miss him. But I just wanted to share with you guys, because I really do feel like I know each and every single one of you, even though we might have never talked before. All right. I'm going to get out of here. I promise you, once I get done with this whole thing, everything is going to be a lot tighter and on more of a regular schedule. I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you stay safe, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
And that's the show for today. Thanks for listening to the Tuddle Daily Podcast. Hey, don't be a dickhead. Do us a favor. Like, share, and subscribe to the show. Also, check out the Tuddle category at 315live.com. The Tuddle Daily Podcast is brought to you by Starfire Transport, StitchYouUp.com, and PocketPairClub.com. Special thanks to show producer Vulture and co-host Sirach. Show voiceover services brought to you by JCVoiceover.com and The Little Cheese Show. Download and subscribe to The Little Cheese Show everywhere podcasts are found. If you want to help support the show, go to paypal.me/TuddleOnTheRadio. You have something you want to say? Tuddle@gmail.com or leave a voicemail at 407-270-3044. To follow all Tuddle's social media, go to Tuddle.net. That's Tuddle with 2Ds.net. Thanks again for all your support, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Tuddle Daily Podcast.
I get ignorant in normal situations.
What you mean?
What the fuck you mean?
What are you talking about?
Nigga, what the fuck is you talking about?
Oh, shit!